We're doing things a little differently for this Halloween special with a collection of creepy unsolved mysteries from around the world that have haunted authorities and internet sleuths for decades. While our deep dives are usually rooted in facts and thorough research, some of the details in these stories have become a bit blurred over the years, but we've done our best to piece together the most complete accounts of these chilling stories for you. Sometimes the truth is stranger and more terrifying than fiction. On the evening of September 2nd, 1994, 27-year-old Mayumi Arashi left her parents' house in Sumida Ward in Tokyo to meet up with an old friend. She had recently moved back in with her parents so they could help her look after her 1.5-year-old daughter while she recovered from her difficult C-section. Mayumi had been acting a little nervous that day, but other than that, nothing was out of the ordinary. She put on a casual outfit and took with her only her keys, wallet, and cigarettes. Nothing to indicate she was planning to be gone for very long. But Mayumi never came home that night. Mayumi's family was extremely worried. Her older sister Yoko, who was unmarried and also lived at home, was particularly upset and led the search. Yoko got in touch with the classmate Mayumi said she was meeting up with, but the classmate said they had never made plans to meet up. The Arashi family filed a missing persons report, but the case went cold, and sadly, Mayumi never turned up, dead or alive. 17 years later, in October 2011, the Arashi family appeared on the TV Asahi program Super J channel to share their story in the hopes of uncovering new leads. Yoko did most of the talking during the segment and recounted the details of the day of Mayumi's disappearance. Yoko revealed that on the day, Mayumi had made several phone calls to someone known only by the initial A. After Mayumi went missing, Yoko took it upon herself to search for clues to understand what happened. She discovered a handwritten note inside Mayumi's wardrobe which read, "I wanted to date A, but I was betrayed," followed by the words, "I'm sorry." There was also A's phone number, leading Yoko to believe that Mayumi had been having an affair with this A person. Yoko contacted A, who confirmed that he had met up with Mayumi that day. He reportedly told Yoko, "I want to be in jail if Mayumi ever turns up dead," confirming Yoko's suspicion that A and Mayumi must have had a major fight, leading to her sister to take her own life out of shame or heartbreak. Yoko recounted how the family hired a private investigator who followed A until the 9th of March 1995. That day, the investigators saw the mysterious man disappear into the forest in the mountains carrying nothing but 2 cans of beverage. The police were called and launched a large-scale search of the area, but they found no trace of either A or Mayumi. After Yoko tearfully finished telling the story, the segment cut to an interview with the father in a different location in the family's house. A terrifying little detail in the background of the interview caught the attention of viewers. Behind Mr. Arashi, taped to the bookshelf, was a piece of paper with a handwritten message. "Don't believe what Yoko says." After the episode aired, viewers immediately flooded the TV Asahi network with questions. Some people accused the producers of placing the note there for shock value and to boost ratings, but the network denied this. The next day, the episode was pulled from future broadcasts and online streaming. The strange appearance of the note fueled speculation. Who had written it? It must have been someone in the household. Or perhaps it was a warning left by Mayumi before she disappeared. And was there any truth behind the message? Was Yoko lying about the whole thing? Since then, internet sleuths have been theorizing about this story endlessly. Most of the information about this story comes from Japanese blogs, so it's difficult to know what's true and what has been made up to make the story creepier. Some have speculated that Yoko was mentally ill and had accidentally killed Mayumi, and that the parents were protecting her by playing along with her delusion about Mayumi's affair and disappearance. With so many gaps in the story and hardly any official news sources, some believe the whole thing is a hoax or just an internet creepypasta. The majority of online articles and Reddit posts agree that the original footage is long gone, so there's no way of confirming the authenticity of the strange note. However, we did some digging and found a Japanese streamer, Date Levy, who got his hands on the original Super J episode in 2020. He analyzes the segment frame by frame, trying to make sense of the note. As we enter the scene with the father, we can see him in the background with the piece of paper already stuck to the bookshelf. He continues to arrange some objects on the shelf as Yoko speaks in the foreground, as if to draw attention to him. The note is seen again in several more shots during the interview with the father, but the full handwritten message is only seen for a split second. The segment ends with an appeal for information about Mayumi. We had to rely on some dodgy Google translating, but it seems that Date Levy concluded that the note was set up by the TV program. It seems too unlikely that the reporters, camera crew, and director would not have noticed the piece of paper in the frame. Question is, why was the note placed there? Super J was a reputable evening news program on one of Japan's major TV networks. What were they trying to communicate? The other questions that linger. Where was Mayumi's baby and the baby's father? Why had no one looked into him? And why in 2015 was Mayumi's profile removed from Japan's online missing persons database? The bizarre TV segment has been proven to be very much real, but the meaning of the message, "Don't believe what Yoko says," is still a mystery, and we may never know what really happened to Mayumi. On the 8th of October 2009, Bobby Jamison, his wife Sherry Lynn, and their 6-year-old daughter Madison vanished into the wilderness of the Sans Bois Mountains in Oklahoma in the United States. The family had driven an hour from their lakeside house in Eufaula, Oklahoma, to view a 40-acre plot of land they intended to buy and where they were planning to live in a shipping container they already owned. Bobby and Sherry Lynn spoke with an associate of the landowner, and that was the last time they were seen alive. Prior to their trip to the mountains, Bobby and Sherry Lynn Jamison had been struggling with various issues. Sherry Lynn suffered from bipolar disorder and had recently lost custody of her son from her first marriage, which made her already fragile mental state even worse and triggered severe bouts of depression. Bobby had chronic back problems as a result of a car accident in 2003. Both of them were receiving disability payments. Bobby was also in the middle of suing both his parents, claiming he had not been paid for work he had done at his parents' petrol station. He had also filed a petition for a protective order against his own father, accusing him of threatening to kill his family. The couple had also been dabbling in occult practices and were convinced that dark spirits had invaded their home. Bobby had even purchased a copy of the Satanic Bible in preparation for an exorcism. However, none of their family and friends felt any cause for concern in the initial days of their disappearance. Bobby and Sherry Lynn were known to occasionally go off the grid, plus Madison's school was aware she would be absent. 8 days after the Jamisons were last seen, hunters in the Sans Bois Mountains stumbled upon an abandoned truck. It was locked, but the keys were still in the ignition. Inside were a bunch of personal belongings, as well as a very malnourished but still alive dog. The police arrived to investigate and realized this was the missing Jamison family's truck. The personal belongings were examined. Bobby's wallet, Sherry Lynn's purse, jackets, a GPS, Bobby's mobile phone, and $32,000 cash in a bank bag was stashed below the driver's seat. The last photo on Bobby's phone was a haunting image of his daughter Madison, taken the day they disappeared. There was no sign of any struggle in or around the vehicle. A massive search operation was launched with over 300 volunteers, 16 teams of cadaver dogs, and an unmanned drone scouring the surroundings, but they found nothing. Security camera footage taken outside the Jamison house was obtained. On the day they left for the Sans Bois Mountains, Bobby and Sherry Lynn were seen making several trips between the house and their truck as they methodically packed for the trip. It's hard to tell in this low-res video, but according to Sheriff Israel Beauchamp, the Jamisons made 20 trips back and forth and appeared to be in a trance. In one clip, Sherry Lynn was seen placing a brown briefcase in the truck. However, the briefcase was never found in the truck or in their home. A .22 caliber handgun registered to Sherry Lynn was also never found. 4 years later, in November 2013, deer hunters in a very remote location deep in the Sans Bois Mountains discovered the skeletal remains of 2 adults and 1 child lined up side by side with their faces down. They were found about 4.3 kilometers or 2.7 miles away from where the Jamison's truck had been abandoned. Forensic testing confirmed the remains were the Jamison family, but due to the extent of the decomposition, the cause of death could not be determined. The deer hunters believed there was a bullet hole in Bobby's skull, but the autopsy report stated the hole was caused by animal predation. Police were completely baffled by the case, and to this day, we still don't know what happened that led the Jamison family to their demise. There are plenty of theories, but none offer solid explanations for the strange clues. The position of their abandoned truck suggested that the Jamisons may have been driving when they encountered someone on the road, prompting them to stop. Was it a planned meeting gone wrong? Some speculate that Bobby and Sherry Lynn were doing a drug deal, as Bobby and his father had both been involved with meth dealing in the past, but no drug paraphernalia was found in the Jamison home or their truck. And would the couple really have brought their young daughter along to a drug deal? Others theorize that the family got lost during a hike, though this seems unlikely given Bobby's back problems. Sheriff Beauchamp believed that the Jamisons may have been scammers and got involved with dangerous people. But apart from the $32,000 in cash found in their truck, there's not much evidence to support this, although none of their friends or family could explain where they got the cash. There's also the theory that it was a murder-suicide, but Sherry Lynn's mother repeatedly rejected this theory and insisted that both Bobby and Sherry Lynn were devoted parents who would never harm Madison. However, a few sources report that an 11-page letter was found in the truck, written by Sherry Lynn, venting her anger towards Bobby, accusing him of being a bad father and husband. A copy of this letter has never been seen though. In the months leading up to their trip to the mountains, both Bobby and Sherry Lynn had lost weight and were reportedly increasingly paranoid about ghosts and dark spirits. Their pastor revealed that they even expressed concern that Madison's imaginary friend was some kind of evil spirit. It's possible that the couple's mental state had deteriorated to the point of shared delusion, leading to a mass psychosis or perhaps a group suicide. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse is located near the highest point on Ellen Moor, one of the small remote islands north of Scotland. It was where lighthouse keepers Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald MacArthur vanished in December 1900. The first sign that something was wrong was on the 15th of December 1900, when the steamship Arcta passed by and reported that the lighthouse was dark despite the poor weather. The Northern Lighthouse Board dispatched the relief vessel Hesperus to investigate. The Hesperus arrived at the Flannan Isles on the 26th of December, Boxing Day. Immediately, it was clear something was amiss. There was no flag on the flagstaff, provision boxes hadn't been left out for restocking, and most unsettling, none of the lighthouse keepers appeared to greet the crew. Captain Jim Harvey blared the ship's horn, then sent up a flare, hoping to alert the 3 lighthouse keepers, but silence. Relief keeper Joseph Moore rowed ashore and climbed the 160 steep steps up to the lighthouse, dreading what he might find. The main gate and door were both shut, but the kitchen door was left wide open. Inside, the clock had stopped working, the fire hadn't been lit in days, and all the beds were empty and unmade, as if the 3 men had woken up and walked away. Hung up on a hook in the entry hallway was a single set of oilskins, meaning one of the 3 men had gone outside into the brutal winter winds without his weatherproof coat and boots. The crew searched the island for any sign of the keepers, but there were absolutely no clues to their whereabouts. But they did discover an unusual scene of significant damage on the western landing. Turf had been ripped up. The iron railway track used to transport supplies had been wrenched out of the concrete. The iron railings were bent. A wooden crate full of supplies was broken with its contents strewn everywhere, and a rock weighing more than a ton had been dislodged. Robert Muirhead, the Lighthouse Board superintendent, who had personally recruited the 3 missing men, travelled to the Flannan Isles to conduct a formal investigation. He determined that the oilskins left behind were MacArthur's, and he also reportedly discovered very strange final logbook entries, although the authenticity of these entries is disputed. On the 12th of December, Thomas Marshall, the second assistant, wrote of severe winds, the likes of which I have never seen before in 20 years. He also wrote that James Ducat, the principal keeper, had been unusually quiet, and that Donald MacArthur, who was known to be a tough and seasoned mariner, had been crying. The log described how the storm raged on, and that the three men had been praying for the storm to stop, despite all of them being experienced and should have known that they were perfectly safe inside the lighthouse, which had been built just a year ago. The final entry on the 15th of December read, "Storm ended, sea calm, God is over all." The most chilling part, no storms were reported in the area on those days. The weather had been calm. Muirhead concluded in his report that the three men must have been trying to secure that supply crate on the western landing when they were knocked down and swept away by a large rogue wave. However, there are still many unanswered questions. Why had the bodies never washed ashore? Why did all three men go down to the landing and leave the lighthouse unattended? A violation of the strict rules and regulations. Why was MacArthur in such a rush that he would run into the bitter cold December weather without his coat? All three of them would have been able to judge the danger of the waves so strong they could move a 1-ton rock. So what was it that drove them to go out there? What had terrified them or compelled them to risk their lives? Was there a more sinister explanation? Had they been attacked and abducted by someone or something? Or was there a dispute between the men that could have escalated to murder? Thanks for watching this Halloween special, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your theories in the comments.